everyone, and welcome to The Table, the place where we have some real conversations. Now, I have been craving a good conversation this week, and if you have too, then you've come to the right place, because today we have Shona,
Hi.
Rachel and Melody in the studio with us. Thanks, ladies, for joining us. And we're going to be talking about some pretty controversial topics, I think, today, so I think it's going to be good. Today we have Michael Horton in the studio. He's been called the Teen Whisperer, and he'll be talking to us about taming those disobedient teenagers. We'll also be discussing how to make toddlers more resilient, and we have a few handy hacks for all you busy mums out there, just to make your lives that little bit easier.
Woo!
Definitely. But first, there's an old saying that goes, there are only two certainties in life, and I'm sure you can probably guess what I'm going to say, death and taxes. But I have something else I'd like to add to that list, and unfortunately, ladies, that is aging. It's something that we all dread and it's inevitable. But what if I told you that scientists have discovered a way to stop aging in its tracks? Now, okay.
Give me a 44-gallon drum of that.
I don't know, are you ladies a bit sceptical when it kind of comes to this? I know I look at all those cosmetic ads on TV and I roll my eyes at how photoshopped they are. But Rachel...
Oh, are they? Are they not for real?
But Rachel, you've read up on this. Do you mind just explaining what the actual science is behind this new discovery?
Yeah, and like science isn't my thing, so I'm going to do my best here, ladies. But there's a guy by the name of Ned David, and he's a co-founder of a biotechnology company. And basically he's saying exactly what you said, that ageing is out of our control, it's inevitable. But what we're seeing in his research with mice at this stage, so not with humans, unfortunately, ladies, is that, you know, the process where our cells sort of divide and replicate and then sort of grow new healthy cells. Well, what happens is there comes a time as we get older that they start to become exhausted.
Why is she looking at me?
Oh, okay, you want me to turn and talk and turn my back? Yeah, come, talk to me. So our cells will replicate. As they get older, they get exhausted, as he says. And it's a process, let me get this right, senescent cells, and that's the process of them sort of non-replicating anymore. Some scientist is going to get me in trouble for saying that wrong. But in the process of them not replicating, there's a toxicity that is released that affects the other healthy cells. So the research is trying to extract that senescent process.
Right.
So they're taking out those cells so it doesn't affect the healthy cells. And in a sense, living longer, creating a better quality of life as we
Fountain of
age.
youth, actually, like on our...
It's like, that's the thing, fountain of youth, like, I don't mind the whole aging process, you know, where there's saggy skin, wrinkles and stuff like that one.
Well, that's because you're not there yet. But let me tell you, when you can't get out of bed and you've got to slowly pull yourself up and the knees are creaking and the elbows are going, you want that senescent thing.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Like, you know, the wrinkles is not a problem. It's the eggs and the creak.
Quality of life.
Yeah. That's the thing that would be great if you get that, like, you know, that you don't have to hurt anymore. But
I guess my question is, I kind of find this to be almost like a moral issue, because I feel like God has designed us, well, not necessarily designed us to age, but because of just everything that's happened, sin and everything that's happened, we now age. But do you think that, like, you would be comfortable with taking a drug like this if it was available, sort of from that perspective?
no, because I don't know what kind of side effects there will
I was
be.
going to say there's so much more to it than a simple yes or no. Yes, it sounds fabulous. I mean, think of all the stuff we take now to sort of prolong aging, or, you know, any sort of drugs we take to get rid of illnesses and that sort of thing, to prolong some of those symptoms. So is it any different to what we're already doing on a smaller scale?
That's a good point.
But the thing is, you know, as Christians, we believe that, you know, death is only temporary, that we will get to after death, when Jesus comes again, we will get to a point where we will be restored and
have eternal life.
Yeah.
So, you know.
But is there a problem wanting that on earth here? Like wanting to sort of prolong our life, like our age is, we're living longer.
Now, this comes back to the green. Can our Earth sustain? Imagine if all the people on the Earth today lived forever.
I don't think it could. Honestly.
It couldn't
we have
sustain
problems
us
now with overpopulation and
retirement age would go up.
Oh, it's bad enough getting to 75 before I can get my super.
Well, and if you don't even talk about that, right? You think about the fact that, well, do you really want to live in this imperfect world forever?
No.
No, but I don't want to leave the people around me that I love. Like, that's it for me. I don't want to live in any
but think about this. Okay, you die, the next thing you will know is life again.
Yeah.
So it's not so much you leaving, it's who you've left behind.
Oh, I know that. Like, it's always up to the people left behind that are hurting. I get that. But look, it's probably very tempting. I'm sure everyone would at least consider it.
Very, very tempting. I think we'll have to continue that conversation on Facebook. It's a whole can of worms. But one of the worst culprits I can think of when it comes to aging is probably sleepless nights. Would you agree? I don't know. But but if you're a first-time parent whose 1-year-old has just started sleeping through the night, oh my goodness, congratulations. I'm sure the thought of having yet another child is enough to make you question your insanity. But Laura Gaines recently wrote an article on Motherly Blog saying that although her kids were only 25 months apart, and it was absolutely crazy, hang on, that she wouldn't have it any other way. Shona, you've got 2 boys. How close are they in age?
Ooh, do I dare 17 months?
17 months.
That's really close.
Yeah,
Wow.
but at this end of it, like, you know, mine are adults, it's great. They got their licenses within a year of each other. They've left school within a year of each other. Okay, the early end of nappies and potty training and feeding and everything else.
Did you plan those?
No.
Yeah.
No, we were only ever having one, and then
really?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
So was my husband.
What about you, Rachel?
Yeah, how about you?
How far apart and did you plan that?
My first 2, so we have 3, my first 2 are 23 months apart. We didn't plan it at all. So my first was IVF and my second was an accident. There was sort of no planning.
She wasn't really an accident. She was planned. Please do not play this when she's 21.
No, she was wanted, absolutely wanted,
Yeah.
but wasn't sure. What I say is we didn't have the opportunity to plan the way some other people did. Definitely wanted, no questions there. And it was totally hectic and did my head in. And I think, as you said, coming out the other end, I'd probably still do it the same way, even though I didn't necessarily have a choice in it.
How about you, Melody? Will you have a baby?
One, and it's just going to stay one.
one?
But my brother and I are 7 years apart. So, you know, you think, oh, well, they're so long apart. Coming on the other end is that gap and stuff like that. My husband's siblings are probably very close in age as well. And I don't think that my brother and I's relationship, I don't think it's any different or any further than if we were closer in age.
Right, so you think it's personality that makes siblings closer or not? Because some siblings are really tight and close and some aren't. But what I've seen, and that's not in every case, but often when they're really close in age, and a good question for you, were your boys competitive?
They are now.
Yeah, okay.
When they were younger, they were happy to be twins. Yeah. They would wear the same clothes. You know, they were so cute. Now, they're like tearing each other apart. Yeah, so... Look, I think it is personalities. Yeah.
But we don't always get a say in it. That's the interesting thing about her article. It's what a great idea to plan, but it's like a birth plan. You have no idea what's coming.
Exactly.
25 months apart. Hallelujah. That would have been a holiday.
Look, I think at the end of the day, you just got to make the best of what you got, hey?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, regardless of how many children you have or how close in age they are, I'm sure as a parent that you'd love to save some time. So stay tuned for our handy hacks.
Interesting.
I want to watch it again. I don't know what it is.
We used to write Gary's mobile phone number on the kids' arms so they didn't get lost when we went out.
Smart. My parents did that at the Easter show. Yeah. Well, we all know that kids like to play, and there are some games that are timeless. You know, Tip, Red Rover, Duck, Duck, Goose. You know those games where there's a clear winner and a clear loser. But according to ABC News, a recent trend has developed where parents and teachers are encouraging their kids to play games where everyone's a winner. But experts are warning that it could be doing our kids more harm than good. Melody, you have a toddler. I'm wondering, have you seen this happen, you know, at kids' birthday parties or anything like that?
Not to Elliot personally, but I have seen it where, you know, where they get medals for turning up or for being good or whatever it is. And I would have to agree with the experts because I'm just thinking that, you know, if no one wins, how do you spur yourself to do better?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good point. They say that it doesn't really, like, kids aren't developing resilience. That was kind of the point here.
Miss Near Millennial here rolling her eyes.
I am rolling my eyes because, no, you finish what you're
No,
saying.
go, yeah.
Because I think there is a place for both, and I really stand by that. I agree with the experts, definitely. You need to learn to lose. You need to learn to win. You need to learn to congratulate each other and take turns. All of those things I don't disagree with. But I think there is a place, especially while kids are young, to learn to have a go, not for turning up. Please work, please work harder than that. But I think there's a place, and I'm not necessarily necessarily saying they all deserve a medal or at the party they all deserve a prize, but there needs to be a place where kids have the opportunity to have a go without being intimidated by the kids who are just good at it.
So what kind of place, like a birthday party or?
I don't know. I don't think birthday parties is a really good example, and that's why I disagreed with the article. Birthday parties are about fun and you know, whatever.
Yeah.
It's the school ground, the sports ground where the competition starts. Not everyone's going to be the best at school, are they? But you still want people to give things a go and not be intimidated, and that's my point of view. That's where I come from.
So in like a school...
Yeah, your face like
Go,
it's
go,
waiting.
go. I was just thinking about like in a school athletics carnival or
Yeah.
whatever. What is your stand on that?
There's winners, there's second place, third place, and there's the last place. That's it.
Because see, even,
That's a skill level.
see, it's even got to the point now that in some soccer fields they take the goals out so that
What?
the children don't have this winning and losing
That's
thing.
not the purpose of the game.
Yes, exactly. And I'm like, how are we ever going to teach our children resilience
Yeah.
and losing and being good sportsmen and
do you-
all these things that we need to learn as adults? How are you going to teach them? Because
Do you really
our parents
believe-
are not there anymore to teach us
No,
this.
but do you really believe the fact that we're giving opportunities for everyone to, and do you really think that's the reason kids aren't resilient? Do you
Yes.
think, I don't know about that. I think if parents are in kids' lives a lot and are there beside them, championing them on, I think that was going to build
But isn't that
resilience
going
more.
to teach them winning and losing
Yeah.
as well?
But
I'm
so
not
that's the point,
disagreeing
though.
with that.
But that wouldn't that like create a sense of entitlement? Like, oh, everything I do is wonderful.
And that's,
Yeah,
the,
that's the
problem with our millennials today is they just think they are wonderful at everything.
And that they're
I'm so-
entitled to
and they're
everything.
entitled
yeah.
to have everything, and that is not true.
Well, that's the problem is that they find external gratification and they're externally motivated by what they can get, as opposed to having that intrinsic motivation, like, oh, I'm going to give this a go because I want to. Or I'm going to give this a go because I enjoy having a go, as opposed to,
That's right.
you know, yeah.
And
so-
that's what I don't want to be lost in this whole process of going back to the competition. I don't want to exclude, particularly at the young age. When you get older, you know.
But how do
man
you
up,
learn
gold
it if you're not learning it at a young age?
You're still learning competition, but you're also not losing that ability to have a go and be intimidated.
having
and
a
that's
go
my
is
problem.
Yeah, 100%. That's the point, I think.
I
But
think that's what we're missing.
yeah. Well, one thing's for sure: whether we give our children rewards or not, we still have to make them dinner. So Gia and Olive have got us covered with some Greek lemon and herb potatoes. Sounds delicious.
So, we are going to make baked lemon herb potatoes. It's like a Greek village type of recipe. And I know we've got lots of Greek food coming up, but that's because I'm so passionate, because I'm from Greece, or my parents are, and it's just food I grew up with. So I want to share it, and it's so tasty. And we are going to try this one. You want to come and help me? Okay. The Blitz is back. Okay, so this is how we make this one. Now, in the village, they use oil, but we're gonna use just vegetable stock. And you put the lemon in there. It's just 2 squeezed lemons. So just the lemon juice of 2 lemons. Okay, do you wanna put the garlic? Lots and lots of garlic. 3 to 4 cloves, maybe 5.
In here?
Yep, but make sure it's not crushed. Make sure there's thick little bits of garlic, because just when it's roasted in the potatoes, it's just special.
Yeah.
Yeah? What's this? Smell it.
Halilali.
Rigani. That's the Greek way of saying oregano, or how do they say in America? Oregano. So you put oregano and lots of garlic, lemon, and vegetable stock. Mix it through. And you want to put it on the potatoes for us? So this way you don't need to put any salt. You can if you want to put extra salt, but the vegetable stock will give it a nice salty. Whoa, good pouring, Pee-wee. Whoa, look at that. And you can make your potatoes thicker if you want. We've just made it smaller so it's quicker to cook in the oven. And my dad would always say, make sure you put lots of pepper on top. So we're doing that, lots of pepper. Actually, he was supposed to be on this episode, but he was maybe too shy to come on. So we go lots of pepper, and he would say, drizzle some oil, but we're not gonna do the oil bit. But it'll still taste delicious, won't we? We'll be back with the finished product, okay? Let's put this in the oven. Ah, yes. Watch out, it's hot, it's hot. Ouchie. This is the finished product. I'm gonna put some on a plate to show you how awesome this looks. These are the most tastiest ever potatoes. Okay, so you can see the bits of garlic and you've got the lemony. Make sure there's a little liquid left. A cup and a half, I think it was, of vegetable stock to all of these potatoes. There, we've gone Greek. They're really hot. They've just come out of the oven. They're like lemony, soft in the middle and a bit crispy on the outside. You should definitely try some more of our recipes. So follow us on Facebook on The Table TV Show, or you can follow us on YouTube channel, which is the same. And you can also go to our website where we've got all our recipes, thetabletv.com. See you next time.
Thanks, Gia and Olive. That looks delicious as always. We've got a free recipe book for you today to add to your dazzling repertoire of healthy dishes. The title is Everyday Essentials, and all you have to do to get your copy is email us at hello@thetable.tv.com, or if you'd prefer to phone us, the numbers are right there on your screen. We'll need your name and postal address and the name of this week's recipe book giveaway, which is Everyday Essentials. Well, joining us now in the studio is psychologist Michael Horton. He's a parenting expert and has done extensive research into adolescent development and behaviour. His most recent book, Engaging Adolescence, also talks about this, and we've got some copies to give away, so keep an eye out on our social media channels. Michael, it's great to have you with us. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
My first question for you is actually a little bit like just a personal interest question.
Yep.
Now, I have some friends who are teachers, and they say that adolescent behaviour and also primary school kids' behaviour is just getting worse and worse, and it's so much worse than it was 10 years ago. Do you think that's true, or do you think that they're just kind of complaining?
No, it is worse.
It is worse, really?
Well, look, the OECD report that came out months ago is saying that some young people are saying they can't learn at school because the other kids are yelling out in class more.
Oh, gosh.
So there is some reason to believe that that's the case, that behaviour seems to be, in some quarters, getting worse than it has been before.
So why is that?
Hard to know, eh? But the progression of behaviour, of course, can start off as naughty when children are smaller. Then if it doesn't go checked, it becomes naughtier by the time they're, say, 10. And then, if it doesn't become checked, then by the time they're reaching teenage years, it can get more out of control.
So to prepare for the adolescent years, we really need to be starting when they're quite young.
Certainly early intervention is the way to go,
I want to drag it back a little bit. We've had this discussion a number of times on this show. What age group is an adolescent teenager?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Well, in the book I talk about that you could actually start when they're about 10, I reckon, having the conversations, because my book's about how to hold a mediation conversation with your teenage son or daughter, and I'm suggesting maybe 10. But look, their brain doesn't really get fully developed until they're about 24, 25.
Oh, heavens.
And so, the traditional way of thinking about it is 13 to 18, of course, or thereabouts. But we know that either side of that, there still is room to grow.
So for someone with a troubled teenager who's, behaving badly and stuff like that, is it too late? Can they do anything?
No, of course it's not. And really what we should do is expect children to develop more self-control as they get older. They should be able to exert more self-control from a developmental point of view, because developmentally we know that 10's better than 8, 12's better than 10, if that makes sense. But also there are things that mum and dad can do to help their children reach maturity.
So say I'm pulling my hair out, my daughter's come home, her behaviour at school is really bad, it's just driving me nuts. What can I do at that point?
Well, probably not react. I think the thing is that if we want them to exert some self-control, we've got to bring to the party a certain level of self-control.
So monkey see, monkey do.
I've got to be an adult?
Yeah, well, we have the fully adult psychological mind, I like to say, and it really is about parents need a method sometimes. First thing they need to work out, is this a problem? And if it is a problem, what do I do about it? So the method that goes with saying there is an issue in the first place needs to be worked out.
So what are the biggest mistakes that parents make then? Because I've heard the phrase it's firm but kind or something.
Warm and firm.
Warm and firm.
Yeah, a lot of the research is saying that warm and firm is the way to go. Warm is mum and dad see me every day, tell me they love me, give me a hug. but firm is important too. Firm.
So how do you do that? Like I've got 2 teenage boys, right? And they stop hugging at about 13, or maybe even before then. You know, get to the school gate, don't want to kiss, don't want to hug, don't want to do anything like that. We're boys now, Mum. So how do you do that warm and firm?
Sure. Do you remember there was a guy years ago called Chapman, I think he was, and he had the 5 languages.
Love
of life.
languages.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's a teenage version of that as well. And I would have thought there is. And so the issue is about what's going to be meaningful to them. It may not be the hug, but it might be the doing something for them, cooking
or
them
giving
a
them
meal,
a present,
or something like that.
But also disciplining in love as well. So, because I'm hearing what you're saying before, the firm bit and the warm bit, but can you discipline in love? Is that an odd question?
Surely all discipline is in love, though. I mean, I don't know.
No, I don't think it is.
No? Okay.
Well, I think here's the issue. Screaming, yelling and also smacking can create problems because you're making the part of their brain work harder at the back.
Right.
Rather than the part up here. And the part up here is good for premeditating, for making a decision and making a choice, and it grows developmentally, but also parents can do some things to make this part of your mind work better.
So what sort of things?
It depends on the age of the children, of course.
Okay.
But it is about being clear about your role as a mum and a dad. You know, what is your role? What's my role? I think it's 3 things I teach parents. It's helping them reach maturity. In other words, helping them get things in proportion. One of the issues I think that's coming up for a lot of teenagers at the moment is that they get things out of proportion. The misuse of some words, for example, like, I'm so traumatised. Well, hang on, you're not traumatised. You might have needed to study harder for that exam, but that's not trauma.
Yeah.
You know, or I'm depressed. Well, sometimes that's not right. That's the
You're
wrong...
just sad.
Yeah, and you know, if it goes on, we need to think about it. But I think parents need to correct their kids sometimes about their misuse of words. The other 2 jobs are about protecting their well-being. Mum and Dad's job is sometimes to make sure the phone stays in the kitchen rather than goes to bed with you at night time.
Easier said than done.
Because, you know, if my job is to protect your well-being, that means I need to make sure if you're my teenage son or daughter, you're going to get 8.5 hours sleep a night, minimum.
Just really quickly, because I know this is something else you're passionate about, cyberbullying. It's huge in the media. Everybody's talking about it. Can you give us a really hot tip, other than not taking your phone to the bedroom, on cyberbullying?
The issue, I think, is a strength, a resilience question. If we can help children to self-talk themselves, because most of the bullying starts in the playground, and unfortunately they take it home sometimes on their phone, but it mostly starts in the playground. So sometimes you need to help kids to know when to walk away, when to say, self-talk themselves and say, these are not my friends. My friends really are the people that matter, that really matter. My family and my friends are the ones that I should be paying attention to, but these are not my friends. And to have those words, those little sayings sometimes, you know, my mother used to say, for better or for worse, sticks and stones will break your bones, Michael, but names will never hurt you. Now, it's a saying that's gone out of fashion, but what she was saying is you don't have to pay attention to every little thing that somebody says. You know, if somebody looks at you badly, that's not bullying, they're just looking at you badly. Yes?
What do you do as a parent when it does get to a stage where you can't just say those things and it's okay, you know? Because it is a problem in our society.
Absolutely.
You know?
But the issue is about that we need to do both. We need to help kids with the language that they use to describe it to themselves and to others, but also we need to help them to develop... Well, stop the bullying. So report the bully for sure. You know, make sure you switch the bully off. Like on social media, you can actually, there are tools now to stop, stop, block, and help kids develop allies as well. You know, people that they can turn to. It might be the girl in year 12, you know, who's on the bus, who's my friend or is known to me, and I sit next to her, if that makes sense.
So do you have a website or somewhere where we can go and see some of these?
I've got some blogs on this on parentshop.com.au. Okay. So parent shop, all one word like Europe car, parentshop.com.au. And on it you'll see a number of blogs there that might help parents.
Excellent.
Very interesting. We kind of talked before about like adolescents and toddlers and how, like we had a topic before about toddler resilience and things like that. Do you talk at all in your book about sort of the transition and how we can prevent bad behaviour as adolescents?
I have another book called Talk Less, Listen More. This one's
Okay.
for teenagers.
Right,
There's
yep,
another one for littler children. But look, there's some really good books around on this. There's a book called Self-Reg by Stuart Shankar, very good on affect regulation in children. That's the one I would recommend to your viewers.
And what sort of tips do you have in that book that we?
He says that parents are what he calls arousal reducers. Their role in helping their children to lower their arousal is incredibly important. Just like parents can traumatise their children on the opposite. So the opposite end of the spectrum are parents who might be abusive and might cause trauma. Well, the opposite must be true. In other words, parents can be soothers of their children.
So calm them down, bring them down.
Bring them down. He calls it the interbrain. Shankar's really great on this stuff. He calls it the interbrain. He says that we can do lots of things to help kids to settle.
Right.
So I've got a 2-year-old. What is the one thing that I can do now to prevent a terrible teenager?
The terrible 15-year-old.
Read a book. No. Well, what I can say to you is this, that children rely on our relationship with them. More than anything, you know, and so at a very young age, the relationship is the determiner of what happens in their nervous system. Now, I know that sounds spooky, but it's true. That what you can determine what happens in your children's nervous system by what you do, what you say, how you help them lower their arousal, that kind of thing. So there's a lot more to it. But look, warm and firm's your guide. You know, warm and firm means mum and dad care for your child, of course, but firm is being firm about a few things that really matter. And as it turns out, there's not that many rules.
So you talk about quality time and sort of having that connection, but do you think that obviously technology is something that potentially could be correlated with bad behaviour in adolescence. Do you think that as parents, we need to be sort of ourselves stepping away from social media and things like that? Do you think that has an impact on child development, or do you think it's mainly just the fact that, I don't know, they have access to phones and we should prevent that, if that makes sense?
Look, there's some researchers, and I was listening to them the other day, they said pretty well anything you do away from a screen is going to make you happier.
Because I was watching something the other day that says some of the schools are now actually banning phones from the school completely.
Oh my goodness.
So, and they were interviewing these year 11 and 12 children, and they were saying how different their life is now. They don't have the access to the phones anymore. They're actually outside talking and playing and communicating with people.
Listening in class.
They did some research and they randomly assigned kids to not do Facebook for a week, and those kids over here could do Facebook for a week. The kids who didn't do Facebook for a week scored happier at the end of the week.
Is that right?
Yeah. Now,
Wow.
I know they use Twitter and Instagram and all that, but they're saying that if you stay away from social media for 1 week, this research
And that's not a lot of time, is it? One week.
I was just thinking, aren't you meant to be 18 and above to start using Facebook or something?
What world do you live in?
Those don't work.
I think it's about 13.
But I guess it is a good point, because when your mood probably dictates your behaviour quite a bit, I'm assuming, and so to stay away from social media is probably a good thing. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us. We have to cut you off there.
Yeah, sure.
But it's been very interesting.
Thank you.
And thank you to all our fantastic panel for being here today. Now, if you'd like to keep the conversation going on social media, please do so. We'd love to hear your comments. And just remember, there's always a place for you at the table. So we'll see you next time, and God bless. Bye.